When you heard the news and it was official, because of the timing specifically, Woj, what jumped to your mind?
Well, it gives Anthony Davis a window here to be traded to a team that's not Boston, because Boston cannot do a trade for Anthony Davis as long as Kyrie Irving is on the roster, based on the kinds of contracts they have. And so there's a window here that if New Orleans decided to do a deal, they really can't engage with Boston until after the season. And so this is a window specifically for the Lakers to cobble together their best offer and go to New Orleans with it. But there's lots of other teams around the league who, listen, everybody in the league wants to be involved at this at some level. And so the question is going to be how willing the Pelicans are to do a deal here in the next 10 days before the trade deadline, because there's not pressure. Remember, he's signed through next season. And so there's not pressure on the Pelicans to do a deal right now. The best case for them is probably to have Boston in the bidding if they're going to trade him and if they decide they're going to move him. The timing of this certainly fits with enough time left between now and the trade deadline on the 7th for there to be some serious talks and if New Orleans wants to proceed on trade, they've got a window to do it.
Woj, what took Anthony Davis so long to want to make this official? You and I both know Rich Paul wanted this official months ago, but Anthony Davis was very, very reluctant to just come out and state plainly, I'm not going to sign, I'm not going to re-up with you guys, I want out. What took him so long?
Stephen, it's not easy to do for a player to have, when you played your whole career in a city and you love the place and you really love a lot of your teammates and you've got relationships, and because you're going to take a lot of heat to do it, and you may not get the trade you want right away, and you may have to play the rest of the season out, and it's not easy to do that. I think Anthony wanted to give the Pelicans every chance to surround them with talent, to build on what they did last season, get into the second round in the West. And, injuries have certainly derailed this team. And but I think for Anthony Davis, I think in his mind, he went as far as he was going to go, or he had gone as far as he could go with this group. And now he gives the Pelicans, a clear sense of where he stands, and they've got to make a decision now on how to proceed.
Adrian Wojnarowski right here with Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Woj, is this really about Boston and L.A. competing against one another for Anthony Davis' services, as if to say, listen, these are the two likely teams he would re-up with long-term, or are there really other viable teams, other viable destinations that he would strongly consider?
Well, I think certainly L.A. and Boston right now. I'm told it's a short list, and I think certainly market size is going to matter. New York would like to be involved in this. Everybody wants to be involved in this. Does New York have enough to offer? Even if they put Kristaps Porzingis in a trade, the Knicks, New Orleans doesn't know that he would re-sign with them. He could just take his qualifying offer and start moving forward. So. Tougher for New York. I think if you are the Pelicans, getting in a bidding situation and knowing, especially if you're going to get draft picks, Boston has contingencies on a few of their first-round picks. You want to know where that pick's going to land. Here's the one other scenario, Stephen, that's going to be interesting to watch.
Okay.
There are going to be contenders, and I'm already hearing from them today. There are going to be contenders who would treat Anthony like a rental and say, we think with Anthony Davis, if we trade for him, we think we could get to the finals with him. Maybe we could win it with him. Maybe we could, knowing that they have him for the rest of the season. And if at the end of the year he doesn't want to go forward with them, then they're in a position to trade him to Boston or LA, get them in an auction, and they could get back all the assets that they traded to New Orleans to get him. So watch for that scenario too. I think this will be a lot wider. This will be much wider open in terms of the offers New Orleans gets between now and the trade deadline than just Boston, or just LA, because Boston can't be involved in this right now unless they're willing to move Kyrie Irving, and they want Kyrie Irving there to play with Anthony Davis.
Very interesting perspective coming from Adrian Wojnarowski right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. That was my next question. I was going to Kyrie because Kyrie, I consider him a superstar, Woj. He's not just a talent, but he's box office. When you see him and the way he dances on people, you're watching him Saturday night, for example, you want to walk through the turnstiles to see this young brother perform. Having said all of that, with all the other parts around them, the way Terry Rozier looked like last year without Kyrie Irving once he had went down. Marcus Smart's got a new $52 million deal. You see that they've got these other guys. They got to find a way to ingratiate Gordon Hayward a bit better because you got Golden State Warriors quoted as saying he's hurting them, he's slowing them down, et cetera, et cetera. I'm wondering, even though the preference would be to have Kyrie to play alongside Anthony Davis, how willing do you believe, if it really, really came down to it, would Danny Ainge be to unload Kyrie Irving this year just to make sure he got his hands on Anthony Davis? I think it's slim to none, but I want to ask you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, Stephen. And, again, this is a 10-day window here. I think Boston certainly knows. Kyrie Irving has come out and said, he did it very publicly, I'm going to resign. I'm going to stay in Boston. But if they want to solidify that fully, then they'll bring in Anthony Davis, and they have enough around Kyrie to do that. Now, remember, they can agree to a trade around the draft or prior to the draft, like where the pieces don't, once the season's over, they could be in agreement on a trade that doesn't get finalized until July 1. I mean, deals happen around the draft where you're picking players for another team, but the deal won't be official for another 8 or 9 days. So it's not like they literally have to wait till July 1. And they could have the conversation right now, Stephen. Boston could tell them, here's what we might be willing to give you. Here's what we would be willing to give you when the season's over. Like, you could have all those conversations, and I would imagine Boston and New Orleans is going to talk here in the next, before the 7th.